Fanfic Corner, presented by Animal Girl. The Lost Princess of Mandalore. Preface in Chapter 1. Written and read by Animal Girl. A hooded figure entered the country home. It was of the utmost importance that no one saw him, hence why he had come at night. One of the guards came up to him as soon as the door closed. "They're both fine," he said. "They're upstairs in the master suite." The hooded figure nodded and made his way upstairs. Once in the master suite, he entered and removed his cloak, revealing himself to be the Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. From the bed, his secret wife, Sabine Wren, the Duchess of Mandalore, smiled. In her arms was a tiny bundle. "We have a daughter," she said. Obi-Wan smiled and made his way towards his wife and daughter. When Sabine had told him that she was pregnant with his child a little over a month after he had escorted her back to Mandalore, after she had visited the Jedi Temple on Coruscant to discuss the growing threat of Death Watch with the Jedi Council, he had been torn. The fact that Sabine had said anything to him was a clear indicator that she was thinking of keeping the baby, and he didn't want his child to grow up not knowing who their father was, especially if his son or daughter turned out to be Force-sensitive. However, he was dedicated to the Jedi Order. He had considered leaving the Order and dedicating himself to his new family, but Sabine had talked him out of it, saying that the Order needed him as much as she and their baby did. Not wanting their child to be born out of wedlock, the expected parents had married in secret. Only Sabine's most trusted guards and servants knew the truth. "She's beautiful, Sabine," Obi-Wan said, taking their daughter in his arms. "Just like you." "She'll be a fine princess and a great ruler someday," Sabine said as Obi-Wan sat next to her on the bed. "Our sweet little girl." The baby cooed, and the couple looked down at the newest addition to their family, Princess Sabine Olivia Christ Kenobi. Obi-Wan couldn't believe what had happened. His beloved Sabine was dead, killed by Maul. Now Mandalore was in complete chaos, and he had no idea where Sabine was. He hoped the protectors managed to get his daughter somewhere safe. If Maul found out about her, and, even worse, learned who she really was, she would be in great danger. The door to his cell opened, and a woman with short red hair and bright green eyes came in. Sabine's sister, Bo-Katan. "Quickly," she said, tossing Obi-Wan his lightsabers. "Come with me." The two quickly made their way to the landing pad, while all around them Mandalore's fought. "Go back to your republic," Bo-Katan said. "Tell them what happened here, and take her with you." She placed a bundle in Obi-Wan's arms. "His daughter." "I know the truth about you and my sister. Take the child. She's going to need her father now more than ever. She'll be safe on Coruscant at your temple, surrounded by Jedi, until she's old enough to take her rightful place." "I can't just leave you here," Obi-Wan said, while holding Sabine close. "We'll be fine. We Mandalorians are survivors." It was the second darkest day in Obi-Wan's life. The Republic and the Jedi Order had fallen, and he was being forced to go into hiding. As he neared his destination, the two babies with him slept peacefully. One was Luke, the newborn son of his former Padawan, Anakin Skywalker. The other was his daughter, Sabine. Obi-Wan had been there when Luke and his twin sister Leia were born, holding Padme's hand during the delivery and using his connections with the Force to ease her pain and send her calming thoughts. The decision had been made to separate the twins for their own safety. At this exact moment, Leia was safely on her way to Alderaan with Senator Organa. Luke, it was decided, would be raised by Anakin's stepbrother, Owen Lars, and his new wife, Beru, on Tatooine. But Obi-Wan had to make a stop first. It had been a difficult and heartbreaking decision, but he knew he couldn't take Sabine with him to Tatooine. Bo-Katan was waiting for him when he landed his ship. "I got your message," she said to Obi-Wan as he exited the ship with Sabine in his arms. "You said you had a favor to ask?" Obi-Wan placed his daughter in Bo-Katan's arms. "You must raise Sabine for me," he said. "The Jedi are no more, and the few of us that are left are being hunted. I have to go into hiding, and I can't take her with me. I'll be living far away from other people, and it would be unfair to her to grow up isolated." Bo-Katan looked down at the sleeping baby in her arms. Her niece, her last link to her sister. She owed it to her and her husband to raise their daughter. "I'll care for her as if she was my own," she said, "and I'll make sure she knows who her parents are and the truth about her father's people." A cry woke Bo-Katan from a deep sleep. It was 2 a.m, but that didn't make any difference to her niece, and she knew Sabine would keep crying until her aunt figured out what was wrong. Getting out of bed, Bo-Katan made her way to the crib and picked up the 1-year-old. She had had a bottle less than an hour ago, so she couldn't be hungry, and she didn't feel wet, so she didn't need to be changed. "What's wrong, little one?" she asked, gently bouncing Sabine as she rocked her. "It's been nearly a month. You'd think I'd have an idea of what I'm doing," she thought. Sabine began to quiet down, clinging to her aunt's nightgown. Maybe a song will put her back to sleep, Bo-Katan thought. She began to sing the very song her mother used to sing to her and Satine when they were children. A silly little song about an ancient creature known as a unicorn. "When the last eagle flies over the last crumbling mountain, and the last lion roars at the last dusty fountain, in the shadow of the forest, though she may be old and worn, they will stare, unbelieving, at the last unicorn. When the first breath of winter through the flowers is icing, and you look to the north, and the pale moon is rising, and it seems like all is dying, and would leave the world to mourn. In the distance, hear the laughter of the last unicorn. I'm alive, I'm alive. When the last moon is cast over the last star of morning, and the future is past without even a last desperate warning, then look into the skies where through the clouds a path is torn. Look and see her, how she sparkles. It's the last unicorn. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. Sabine's quiet breathing told Bo-Katan that the song had worked and her niece had fallen back to sleep. Carefully, so not to wake her, she placed her back in her crib. "Sleep tight, little one." "She's getting so big," Fenral said a few weeks later when he stopped by to check on Bo-Katan and Sabine. Fen would often stop by, not only wanting to make sure that both aunt and niece were getting along fine, but also that no one figured out who Sabine is. He had made a promise when the princess was born that he would keep her safe from any and all harm. Sabine giggled and reached out with her tiny hands. She liked Fen, though she had no idea who he was. "She likes you," Bo-Katan said. "Her mother said she would make a fine princess and a great ruler someday," Fen said as Bo-Katan put Sabine back in her playpen. "You're doing an amazing job raising her." "It hasn't been easy. Some nights she won't let me sleep. I think a part of her remembers what happened over a month ago. She is at a fun age, though. She's walking a little now, and I'm sure she'll say her first word any day now." It was true. By the time Obi-Wan had brought his daughter to Bo-Katan, Sabine was already walking. Since she had only been crawling, when her father took her away from Mandalore, she must have taken her first steps at the Jedi Temple. It broke Bo-Katan's heart to know that her sister would never see her little girl's first steps, or that she or her husband would never hear her first words. "You need help," Fen said. "Someone to be like a father to Sabine. Someone who knows who she is and who her parents are, and will keep it a secret." "Are you saying what I think you are?" Fen pulled her close. "I've loved you since we were kids, and I know you feel the same way. I would have asked you a long time ago, but you joined Death Watch, and then there was all that chaos after your sister was killed. Marry me. We can raise Sabine together and teach her everything she'll need to know so she can be the kind of ruler your sister was." 2 months later, Bo-Katan woke up to find Fen gone. It had been 2 weeks since they were married, and the couple had moved into a slightly larger house with their niece. Getting out of bed, she went into the kitchen to find both her husband and their niece covered in baby food. "Who's eating breakfast here? You or her?" she said as she picked up their niece. "She woke up and was hungry. I didn't want to wake you," Fen said as his wife cleaned their niece up. Sabine giggled and reached out her arms to her uncle. "Dada," she said. 1 year later, Sabine followed her aunt around the house, pulling at her pant leg whenever she got the chance. When her aunt turned around, the 2-year-old raised her arms, a clear indication she wanted to be held. "I'm going to miss this when you get older," Bo-Katan said as she picked up her niece. Suddenly there was a bang at the door. When Fen answered it, 2 Mandalorian warriors entered. One handed him a holodisc. "By the order of Gar Saxon," the warrior said before he and his comrade left. Gar Saxon had taken control of Mandalore nearly 6 months ago. When the Empire was looking for someone to govern the planet, Saxon had come out of the shadows where he had been hiding ever since Maul's defeat at the end of the Clone Wars. He claimed to have the interest of every house and clan on Mandalore in mind, but it was clear that he showed favoritism to those that were allied with his house and the houses allied with him. And Clan Protector and House Christ weren't one of them. Whatever was on the holodisc wasn't going to be good. "Fen Rhaal, Lady Bo-Katan," the tiny holographic image of Gar Saxon said. "Did you really think you could keep it a secret? I know exactly who that child you have been raising is. You will bring the young princess to me, and she will be handed over to Clan Wren. Countess Ursa and her husband will raise her as their daughter. I'll give you 3 days to get her things in order." Bo-Katan looked at her husband, unable to keep the panic out of her eyes or her voice. "We can't turn her over to them," she said. "I promised Obi-Wan I would raise her as if she were my own. I also promised my sister's spirit that I would watch over her daughter." "We won't let them have her," Fen said. "Saxon will just use her to strengthen his claim as Mandalore's leader. We'll take her somewhere else, somewhere Saxon won't be able to get his hands on her." "Where? We have no idea where her father is. He never told me where he was going, saying that it was safer for me and Sabine not to know." Concord Dawn. The Protectors have a base there, and the majority of the clan lives there as well. Sabine will be safe and far away from Sax and his allies. We'll be able to raise her the way we said we would. And, when she comes of age, she can return to Mandalore and reclaim her birthright. Okay, now before I sign off, I'd like to say one thing, and that is, aside from the lines I added in, if I got any of the dialogue from the Lawless wrong, I apologize.